So hello, thank you for being here. I think we can start and hopefully more people will join. Of course, this is an open event. Anyone can join and anyone is invited. I should say that this is a recorded session, so the whole workshop along with the presentations and the related material will be found on the DLT4ALL website and our YouTube channel. So it will be accessible for all of you in any time. Thank you again for joining us. My name is Dimitris Vibikas. I'm a researcher at the Southeast European Research Center, which is a joint research center by the University of York in the UK and City College in Thessaloniki. Our today's event has a focus on blockchain for social good. And I will be briefly provide an overview about what we're going to talk about today, who are the organizers and the presenters, and lastly, and perhaps more importantly, what we have to offer to our kind today's audience. So what we're going to talk about. So the title of the workshop is Blockchain for Social Good. We're going to explore blockchain and how it can be utilized and put to work in farm-to-fork value chains, how blockchain can be used in humanitarian actions, and how blockchain can be used in social equality techniques, technologies, and approaches. So we're going to explore the key trends in combining Internet of Things, Earth observation technologies, of course, with blockchain and DLTs, in the agricultural domain, in the agri-tech domain, as we call it. The utilization of blockchain in humanitarian actions, which is a very important mindset and, of course, initiatives with maybe vast social impact, giving, of course, practical examples and use cases. And lastly, we're going to explore how blockchain can be used, can promote gender and social equality, again, a very hot topic in today's society. And just to give a figurative overview, the idea, of course, behind this webinar, this workshop, is to bring together important and, most importantly, currently unexplored dimensions of blockchain, how blockchain can be used in areas not largely investigated and explored. So the intersection of agri-tech, humanitarian actions, and social equality and gender equality, the intersection of these themes will be the focus of today's event. So who are the organizers and the presenters? I have to say that this webinar takes place under the auspices of two European funded projects by Erasmus, specifically Knowledge Alliances. The one is the DLT4ALL project, focusing on blockchain, and the other is AgTech7 project, focusing on agri-tech technologies. These projects have similar objectives. The DLT4ALL project has 9 online training modules exploring DLTs and blockchains from different perspectives, from technological, legal, organizational, business. Of course, all this material, this training material, is free and accessible for all. While the AgTech7 project has 7 interdisciplinary farm-to-fork themes, again, training themes, online learning themes. For example, technological aspects, as I briefly talked about earlier, entrepreneurial, startup, business, even psychological. So we bring together these two similar complementary projects in order to investigate all these things at once. This is the overview of today's workshop. After my initial brief introduction, we have Mr. Sokratis Kaprelis from Neuropublic, who will be talking about how blockchain can assist farm-to-fork technologies and strategies. We have Professor Sula Luka from the University of Nicosia, describing the utilization of blockchain in humanitarian actions, giving specific examples, a very valuable talk. And of course, Mr. Dimitris Founis from Gnomon, who are going to introduce how blockchain can be used in social equality and gender equality in today's society. And we are going to conclude the session by a lively, hopefully, Q&A session. So I will be ending my brief introduction to this workshop by the overall offering. First of all, the DLT4ALL project. One can find in our website 3 online courses in various perspectives. All of the material is accessible and free for all. It's just 1 minute login process in order to access all the material. You can find all the webinars of this project, including this one, of course, in the links below. The curriculum we have designed and co-created during the project in 5 languages. So maybe you can utilize them in your organization, either a university institution or a business institution. You can find use cases where blockchain is used in many, many contexts, and of course, much more. So please visit our website for all of this material. When it comes to Architect 7 project, this is a newly started website and project. So we have some cases, the curriculum, the methodology in the website of the project. We have the scheduled outcomes, and we're starting to create the learning material, which is to be published by early 2022. So I won't bore you too much with my introduction. I just want to say to keep your questions for the end, for the Q&A session at the end of the workshop. Of course, you can write your questions in the Q&A chat box. As I said, the workshop, the videos will be uploaded at the DLT4ALL project and our YouTube channel. And please be so kind to fill out a very brief questionnaire at this link, which I will be posting in the chat box. So thank you very much. And I will give the floor to Mr. Sokratis Kaprelis.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. Just give me a minute to share my screen. So I guess that everyone can see my screen. So as Dimitris said, I'm Sokratis Kaprelis, and I represent Neuropublic. It's an innovative ICT company that was founded in 2003, and it specializes in the development of integrated information systems, high-demand applications built in cloud computing architecture, and of course, smart farming application for all kinds of sectors in the agriculture. I have to mention that we also have the cloud and software infrastructure for the Greek paying agency of the farmers, and also we develop various digital agriculture and smart farming applications based on Earth observation, Internet of Things, big data, and similar things like this. So, as Dimitris said, we are partners in Architect 7, and we focus on smart farming. I will begin my presentation with a brief introduction of the evolution of technology in farming. Then we will move on to smart farming, and then we will focus on blockchain applications in farming. And last but not least, we will refer to the farm to fork strategy, which is the latest trend in the European Union in order to tackle all climate change effects that everyone can see nowadays. So as we know, farming has not started as we see today. It started from manual work and animal usage. And of course, we had tools, and then we had tractors that came to help farmers. And of course, the last decades, we have some great advancements of technology applications in farming, which are weather forecasting, GIS software and GPS agricultural technology, temperature, moisture, and other sophisticated sensor, Internet of Things based sensor networks, automated irrigation, fertilization. We have autonomous robots for various tasks in the field. Of course, everything is helped by the Earth observation, included satellite, drone, and other imagery. Of course, we have farming software and online data for decision making. We have blockchain applications, biotechnology. The technology variations are huge in the agriculture sector, but not all of them are widely used nowadays because of some problems. In this slide, you can see a depiction, let's say, of the technology evolution, hoping that one day decision-making for farmers will be easier and automatically done. So the combination of technology advancements along with the increasing needs of human has led to what is widely known as smart farming. A simple definition for smart farming is the application of information and communication technologies in the management of agricultural production with the aim of taking decisions in order to increase the quality and quantity of agricultural products, the efficient use of resources, and of course, the optimization of agricultural practices. So the objective of farming is an economic and environmental efficient management of agricultural production. And of course, it's done through the use of innovation monitoring equipment and measurements, modern information and communication technologies, and sophisticated decision support systems. So smart farming relies on the development of software tools to exploit data, which are processed, combined with other records or measurements, and correlated in order to produce analysis and forecasting models. ICTs have a great role in the farming sector. Indicatively, it can be used in regulatory and policy, in agricultural extension and advisory services, can be used in order to promote environmentally and sustainable farming practices, in order to manage disaster and early warning, in order to enhance market access. It's also used for food safety and traceability, which is blockchain's application. It's used in the financial sector, in the insurance and risk management, and of course, in capacity building and empowerment. Some examples of new technologies are, as you can see, big data analytics, which are used, customized for weather and agriculture advisory services, for e-agriculture marketplace information, for disaster alerts. Of course, Internet of Things that are used for checking soil health or the plant health. And of course, introducing the traceability of products, which is combined with blockchain technology, which we will analyze later. It has to do with smart contracts, improved supply chain monitoring, food safety insurance, land registration, traceability of project, as I already said. Of course, Earth observation and geographic information system mapping is very important. It's used for mapping, crop monitoring, productivity estimation, yield, let's say, weather advisory services, and of course, artificial intelligence, which is used for decision support models, and it detects plant diseases, weather prediction, climate change analytics. It's all of these available technologies combined are the smart farming as we know already. So the growth of ICT in the last decades has provided many opportunities to overcome some of the challenges that are faced, not only in agriculture. So one of the most discussed technologies is blockchain, and that's the reason that we're here today. As we know, blockchain consists of a, let's say, linked chain that stores auditable data in units called blocks. It has unique characteristics and make it an attractive technology for tagging, storing, and tracking anything of value. We have to take in mind that Bitcoin, everybody knows Bitcoin, was one of the first and most popular implementations of blockchain technology. So we have different types of blockchain. We have the consortium, which is formed by a group of members who control this chain. So an application is regulatory related decision making. We have the private blockchain, which is controlled by a centralized entity with strict access. So it's used mainly for permissioning a ledger between banks transfer. And of course, we have public blockchain, which is decentralized and visible to public. An example is, trading of renewable energy or time stamping. But blockchain, as we said, is not used only in the agricultural sector, but also in financial, in health, education, the retail sector. It's used in logistics, energy, insurance, and also for providing a digital unique identity. So blockchains have many opportunities in agriculture. As I already say, it's used in supply chains in order to track products based on geographic indicators and other markers, what we say as traceability, in order to empower consumer and to encourage and reward good practices and also penalize illegal and unsustainable businesses. It's used for land registrations and digital parcel and farmer IDs, which is really useful for the paying agencies for farmers in order to cross-check what is real and what is not, so that they can pay them in the end. Of course, it's used for self-executing smart contracts together with automated payments to farmers, which leads to financial and agricultural risk management for smallholders. So it's an insurance from natural disasters. Farmers are paid if they lose all of their yield due to natural disasters. So blockchain helps in cross-checking and ensuring that information is real. Of course, blockchain is used in the fishery sector in order to track and deter illegal and unreported or unregulated fishing. And of course, it's used in order to improve the transparency of forestry processes, such as the creation of solid wood, disintegration, cellulose-based biomass. And all of this, it's a combination of blockchains, big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence. So blockchains from its own cannot work without other available technologies. In the agriculture domain, as I said, self-executing smart contracts together with automated payments to farmers can be the game changer. The role of smart contracts, especially in agricultural insurance, green bonds, or traceability of products, could be very effective. Agricultural insurance built on blockchain with key weather incidents and related payouts drafted on a smart contract would facilitate immediate payout in the case of natural disasters in the fields. This works like that. The system is linked to mobile wallets with weather data being provided regularly by sensors that are deployed in the field, and of course are correlated by data from proximity weather stations. So blockchain-based implementations still suffer from traditional challenges, such as the poor infrastructure, failures of data interoperability between the different information systems, and of course, other technology issues. Although the trend is now to try blockchain-based implementation in all traditional processes, in most cases, this could add unnecessary overheads and may not yield the expected benefits. Of course, this depends on the country and other factors. But it does promise to deliver a transparent, decentralized, secure transaction process, which in future may reduce transaction costs and other burdens. So blockchain has great potential in agriculture, and not only, but it's not a panacea for all problems. The right ecosystem and stakeholders are needed to sustain such kind of solutions and enable it. So blockchain solution development would unnecessarily increase the overheads substantially and could result in the initiative failing miserable if we have not made a careful assessment of the existing challenges faced, problems, including infrastructure, as I said, digital literacy, connectivity, and other overheads involved. So blockchain and all available technology are, let's say, the tools to put into effect all green strategies and initiatives that are relevant and are formed in order to tackle climate change effect, because the human factor has negatively affected the environment, causing problems that are not easily tackled in the next 10 or 20 years. It will need more years in order to, let's say, stop the disaster. So the farm to fork strategy is here, and it's the heart, it's the main component of the European Green Deal, and it aims to make food systems fair, healthy, and environmentally friendly. Climate change and environmental degradation are an existential threat to Europe and the world. And in order to overcome these challenges, the EU aims to transform the production and the food system into a modern and resource efficient and competitive economically. So what their aim is to have no net emissions of greenhouse gases by 2050. They're aiming for economic growth decoupled from resource use, and of course no person and no place left behind. All available, as I said, all the aforementioned technology advancements are part of the available solutions to delay the negative effects of climate change. So the farm to fork strategy aims to accelerate our transition into a sustainable food system that should have, as I said, a neutral or positive environmental impact. It would help mitigate climate change and adapt to its impacts, reverse the loss of biodiversity, ensure food security for everyone, nutrition and public health, and of course, preserve affordability of food while generating fairer economic returns, fostering competitiveness of the EU supply sector and promoting the fair trade. Lastly, I will share you a video from Farm to Fork that is really interesting, and it's depicting more or less all the situation nowadays. Thank you very much. I think I could cover all the topics briefly regarding the agriculture and generally the technological advancement that are happening and are affecting our lives.
Thank you, Socrates. Thank you very much. We had a small problem with the sound of the video, but we will be sharing the full link of the video, so it will be
okay. So I can share the link.
Yeah.
Everything is in the European Union website.
It will
so
be
anyone can go directly there for more information.
It will be uploaded in our YouTube channel and of course the DLT4ALL website. Thank you again, Socrates. Very, very interesting stuff. Please keep your questions written in the Q&A chat box in order to be addressed at the end of the workshop. And now I will give the floor to Professor Souda Luca from the University of Nicosia, who is the coordinator of the DLT4ALL project, for a very, very interesting presentation.
Thank you, Dimitri. And a big thank you also to Socrates for such an interesting presentation on smart farming. And because, I mean, he gave us an overview of all the different technologies that are used for smart farming, along also, of course, with blockchain. And blockchain integrated with all these different technologies. This is when we have really very, dynamic applications that can be used for farming. And also, as we're going to see here, for humanitarian actions, blockchain-based supply chains, and several other things that we're going to look into within this presentation today, that contribute to eliminating hunger, for example. So I will go straight into my topic on blockchain for humanitarian action and social good, as well as potential use cases that we have or we can help build also around us. When we are discussing humanitarian actions, our mind goes usually towards the people that are suffering, many times because of poverty, wars, natural disasters, and other mishaps. Although much of the early attention of researchers focused on the financial aspects and financial applications of blockchain, many scientists nowadays are also looking into how this technology will transform societies and institutions, enabling blockchain to quickly enter the fields of humanitarian action and development aid, with a very strong potential to revolutionize these sectors. So, the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals are the world's call to action on the most pressing challenges and opportunities facing humanity and our planet. The UN's 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is a plan of action for the people and the planet, designed to shift the world into a sustainable, prosperous, and resilient path, with people prospering and living a healthy and with a good quality of life. Looking into these goals, which range from no poverty to clean water, for all, quality education, and healthcare services for all, we see that ICTs in general, and of course blockchain technology, are catalytic drivers to their achievement. Due to the constraints of time that we have, I have chosen a few of these goals to discuss on how blockchain can actually contribute towards achieving them. I have chosen some of the goals that I believe will have a great social impact, as there is an urgent need for action and are affecting also at the same time a lot of people across our planet. The first one that I have chosen is the no poverty one. More than 700 million people all over the world still live in extreme poverty today, struggling to fulfill their basic needs like health, education, and access to water and sanitation, and many more basic needs. Even before COVID-19, progress towards goal 1 had slowed down, and the world was not on track in ending poverty by 2030, as the initial goal was set. Now, as the world anticipates another more economic fallouts because of the pandemic that we are going through right now, tens of millions of people are actually being pushed back as we are talking into poverty, and doing years of the steady improvement that there was, even though we were not going to reach the goal on time. One of the ways blockchain technology could assist for providing, helping alleviate poverty is to be used for providing financial services to the unbanked. The significance of bringing banking to the unbanked comes in the form of a vital step in taking populations out of poverty. The most obvious financial service lacking for these populations is their ability to send and receive money. For most of us, this is something that we all take for granted, but this is not the reality for many people around the world. For example, migrant workers in other countries, even here in Cyprus, they frequently need to send money back to their home countries to their families. Many times, the recipients in their home countries cannot have access to a banking system, relying on money wire services that are usually much more expensive. Many cryptocurrencies can instead provide instant transactions across international borders for very little fees. This opens also other areas that can be explored within the no poverty area. The area of sovereign identities. In many poor countries around the world, many people may not even have an identity to be able to open a bank account. So this is where blockchain-based identities and sovereign identities may also come into place. And as we're going to see, sovereign identities can assist in other areas as well. The term self-sovereign identity, self-sovereign, refers to the right that all individuals should have to own and control their own personal data. So a self-sovereign identity, a digital identity controlled by the owner, will empower citizens to disclose it in situations whenever they want, in whatever the situation that they decide to disclose their identity. With the attention of the ecosystem on financial inclusion or banking the unbanked, as we many times say, the thinking is that with accessible, secure digital identities, lower transaction costs, and cheaper remittances, the barriers to entry around the globe, the global financial networks, will be lower, and more people will be able to participate in these financial systems. And since we're discussing blockchain-based IDs, there are also, as I said earlier, many other areas in which they can assist in relation to other SDGs. If you have an interest in SDGs, you will see that many of them are interrelated. So blockchain-based IDs could be used to prevent child trafficking. More than 26%, unfortunately, of the people that are being trafficked are children without an identity. Having a self-sovereign identity could make it possible for individuals caught in human trafficking, especially the children, to flee without depending on a passport or other form of identification that otherwise could be withheld or stolen from them. Moving now to another SDG, the second one actually, which is on zero hunger, very much related to what Socrates was talking to us about. With COVID-19, the situation has become even worse here. The effects on the food and agricultural sector asks for prompt measures to ensure that food supply chains are kept alive to mitigate the risks of hunger, especially on the poor and the most vulnerable ones. As we see that more than 690 million people around the world may go to bed hungry every night. If we look at some other figures, we see that in industrialized countries, 40% of the food is wasted at the retail and consumer level. In developing countries, another 40% of the food is wasted after harvest and during the processing. This means that 1/3 of the world's food is actually wasted. And we have already said that so many people may go to bed, and children at the same time go to bed hungry. Blockchain, on the other hand, represents one of the technologies with the most promise to provide more consistency in many industries, including agriculture, whether it is applied to managing the warehouses, the silos, and the supply chains more intelligently, or utilized in the field as a tool to transmit real-time data about the crops or the livestock. In addition, integrating environmentally and financially viable practices into the complete supply chain life cycle, from product design and development to material selection, manufacturing, packaging, transportation, warehousing, distribution, consumption, and return and disposal, can assist organizations in not only reducing their carbon footprint, but also in optimizing their end-to-end operations to achieve greater cost savings and profitability for the same companies themselves. Moreover, the use of smart contracts can help green, within quotes, the green, reverse supply chains, as they may include the definition of various policies, such as supplier performance indicators for waste reduction, the obligation of the company for certified disposal of hazardous waste, or the fulfillment of some sort of other regulatory policy to ensure that they are all being followed according to the regulations. Another example directly targeting humanitarian actions is the one regarding the Azraq refugee camp in Jordan, where biometrics recorded, but the biometrics of the refugees living in the camp were recorded on a blockchain. They were used to register more than 100,000 people to enable them to get their groceries through the various vouchers they were entitled. The World Food Program records and accounts the associated payment on the blockchain, and they realized that this cut their cost down to just 2% of what it used to be. And so we see also that the use of blockchain and smart contract helps to reach the actual users, the people that need it the most, and at the same time solving problems of corruption. The next SDG that we're looking at is good health and well-being. Essential health services and life-saving interventions are a must. If we look at the statistics that we have here, in 2018, about 6.2 million children and adolescents less than 15 years old died from diseases that they could have been prevented. More than 40% of all of the countries, they have fewer than 10 doctors per 10,000 people. Other very shocking statistics, I would say, is that about 810 women died from preventable cause diseases related to pregnancy and child death. And of course, the list goes on and on. People are unable or afraid to go to the healthcare facilities to seek services, such as checkups, vaccinations, and even urgent medical care. Blockchain in the health care sector can help mitigate the risk of fraudulent drugs through better tracking of faulty products and identifying their occurrence further upstream in the supply chain. More use cases here, but I see that I'm also running out of time. At least this presentation will be available for all, so if you can want to have a look at it. And the last SDG that I will briefly actually discuss today will also introduce us to the topic of our next speaker, Dimitris Spounis, is gender equality and women's empowerment. Dimitris will talk to us about the equal treatment of women programmers and how this is achieved via blockchain. Gender equalities are unfortunately still deep-rooted in every society. Women suffer from lack of access to decent work and face occupational segregation and gender wage gaps. In many situations, they are denied access to basic education and healthcare, or are victims of violence and discrimination. They are even underrepresented in political and economic decision-making processes. During the pandemic in Europe, another shocking statistic, there was a 60% increase in emergency calls from women subjected to violence by their partner in April 2020 during the lockdowns, as compared to April 2019, when we didn't have the lockdowns and the pandemic. Looking at the stats worldwide, it seems that actually this was the case globally, and in many parts of the world, even worse than that. ICT in general supports gender equality by leveling and playing the playing field for women and girls, enabling access, regardless of gender, to markets, education, training, better employment opportunities, empowering women at large. Dimitris will present to us more on this topic and how blockchain empowers women. And Dimitri, we're looking forward to that. Barriers, of course, there are. We are still talking about a technology that is maturing continuously. Things are changing continuously. Standards are required for wide deployment. Resources may not come easily, such as funds. And probably one of the most important things to consider is that new technologies implies also at the same time changing our traditional ways of doing business. And as I was discussing with my class on Monday, it's the young generations that will continue the work that we started with a totally new paradigm shift in their way of thinking. And I was telling them the story of how actually Web 2.0 changed our way of thinking, and it started with the young generations. And I was telling them actually how, I was quite old when my 10-year-old nephew introduced me to Facebook. So it's going to take a total paradigm shift. Leveraging blockchain technology for social good, coupled with artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, machine learning, quantum computing, all the different technologies that we have will allow us to have applications to promote social good, to be more environmental friendly, to have better healthcare services, more equal opportunities for all, to education, to health, to fight human trafficking, financial inclusion, and lots of more to come. So thank you all. And I will pass the floor now to Dimitris. And Dimitri, I'm stop sharing. We'll take questions at the end, everybody. So
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sula, for the preparation, actually preparing the floor for me. Your data was excellent. You actually set me up to begin my presentation quite effectively. Thank you very much for that. And I would like to begin my presentation, which is, I promise you, is going to be a short one because I have the last part of the presentation. I would like to use what Sula has said to talk about, I guess, an old issue in computer science and in programming in general, a big social issue in computer science, and how blockchain technology accidentally found a use case for solving that. I say accidentally because it was mostly due to the way it works and due to its usefulness. But we'll talk about this later on. So. Social inclusion in general has a lot of aspects that are very relevant to computer science, generally because you understand that programming and computer science as professional fields are very attractive to people that suffer from neurological conditions, from psychological disorders, and most of all is a sector, a field of science that is very problematic on the gender diversity aspect and on the gender diversity aspect. Well, in general, it is a field that is very attractive to people with neurological conditions and neurodiverse people because of its comfort. The comfort it provides, the general not social and social nature of it. So, and due to that, as we will see, it is unfortunately one of the most male-dominated fields in the world right now. Computer science is indeed very male-dominated. Women are indeed greatly underrepresented in computer science fields, all of them, with only 20% of computer science professionals being women. From personal experience, and I'm sure that if one of you is a programmer in the audience, you'll see that the figure in Europe is usually much less. This data comes from the American Association for Computer Machining. So this means the data is mostly American, and in America, women have more access to STEM fields in general. So I'm sure that from your personal experience and from my personal experience, I've been in teams of 10, 15, 20 programmers, and there's less than 20% women, or at least less than 20% of people identifying as women in the workspace. So a very apparent problem. And this situation of women underrepresentation in computer science breeds a lot of problems. But the biggest one being, of course, sexism in the workplace. And another important one that I like to present all the time here is something that goes against the basic directives of Europe as the basis of its European, I guess, philosophy and access to its citizens. This causes the unequal access to opportunity. And of course, with more problems leading up to less diversity in the workspace. And from a more value standpoint, it causes the lack of full utilization of talent in the worker pool, in the employee pool. So underrepresentation causes, I guess, creates a breeding ground for all those problems. The solution that was accidentally presented by blockchain and in general in the fields of blockchain programming, we work a bit differently. The idea is that when we program on blockchains and when we create smart contracts and when we become developers of a blockchain project, say an NFT project or a coin project or whatever else you guys like, programmers usually remain pseudonymous, not anonymous, but we operate out of an address. We only use an address. It works, of course, because we don't really need anything else. And this address is the basis of the self-sovereign identity that Sula was talking about earlier. So we only work through that. Of course, gender, social status, and nationality of the programmer that works in a blockchain project is hidden when getting hired, of course, to do some development work for a project. Because you only operate out of this address, and you only need the address to operate, you, not accidentally, but you hide your gender, your social status, your nationality, allowing people to only view you as an address, nothing else. This is indeed like an Ethereum address that we mostly work out of. This is my identity. This is what I sign with. This is what I deploy smart contracts from. I really don't need anything else to operate. So through this pseudonymity offered by my address, a sort of equality is proposed. A sort of equality is enforced. Now, a lot of women programmers in general from our communities operate out of addresses, and you'll mostly understand that when you take part in a project, at some point you're going to need to talk to investors. At some point you're going to need to talk to partners, or at least team members, employees of the same project. What usually happens is that even though we operate out of an anonymous address, at some point we're going to need to talk to another person. And in the communities that we take part in, we make use of what we call theatrics, and what some people, I guess, more eloquently say is defensive misdirection. I have been part of a lot of teams where some members from all over the world, when required to have a profile picture or show themselves on a company meeting or in a team meeting, they use AI-generated avatars. Of course, these images that I show to you here are not real people. I generated them yesterday using StyleGAN 2. These are all generated by my computer. A lot of women programmers or programmers that would not like to disclose their nationality or gender use AI-generated pictures of themselves just to showcase a more human appearance. And a lot of male programmers, in order to help the community of programmers, of women programmers, use women avatars themselves, just so we create misdirection and theatrics to disallow people from being racist towards women or being racist towards other nationalities in the blockchain. We're all part of a community, and this is our way of taking care of one another. Of course, the idea is also to band together as a community. The programmer community on Ethereum or on Binance Smart Chain, or the most famous, I guess, public blockchain systems, is banding together with and there's tons of examples of this. I'm gonna just mention one, which is one of the biggest communities right now, is the Cyberpunks Cafe, which is a place to anonymously discuss development work, salaries, of course, between each other, work culture, and ask for help from fellow developers. All this in a gender agnostic way, as a measure, as a way to combat gender discrimination in the workplace. Of course, using fake identities or anonymous identities, we all openly discuss together. We discuss our salaries. We discuss what a fellow developer, woman or man, we don't care, should ask for by a project. And all this helps equalize the whole process of working on blockchain projects. So accidentally, or at least naturally as humans, we band together in a community, and through this anonymity offered by blockchain, we enforce equality through technology. And the bigger picture in this problematic, I guess, phenomenon is should we view it as important? Well, should programmers and people have to hide their identity in order to work equally? Or maybe are the previous examples indicators of a bigger problem in computer science in general or in science in general? Well, the main idea is that we usually talk about blockchain as a technological tool that solves something, solves a problem. But in this case, I talk to you about the blockchain being an indicator of a much bigger problem in science in general. And of course, the problem of social inclusion. We use blockchain as an accidental indicator of what's going on. So we enforce equality through technology, and this helps us understand that maybe there's a bigger problem that needs to be researched in this space. There's a bigger problem of underrepresentation of gender in the workspace, and there's a bigger problem of diversity, I guess, through blockchain. So at this point, and I will be finishing up my presentation because I'm running on out of time, is the biggest idea here is that through the tools offered by blockchain, women programmers are able to bypass, you would say, the problems that their gender carries for them by using the technology of the blockchain to remain anonymous. And that does indeed point us to a much bigger problem in today's society and today's workspace. I think that was fast enough, I guess. I didn't move over my time too much. I didn't pass over my time too much. So if there are any questions, would you like to follow up with a quick Q&A session? Because I did see some pretty interesting questions, Shula, in the chat. Or should we wrap this up?
Yes, Dimitri. I see also some very interesting questions. But you've mentioned something here now that you have said that women have a problem of gender. I don't think this is the case. And I see also a related question in this. Why are there not women in computer science, by our friend here, Paula? Well, it's not that the gender is the problem, it's the way our society thinks. And because they have formed this sort of stereotypes, I believe, behind women in computer science and technology in general or engineering. And until we see a shift in the way of thinking of our society and perceive women equally as being, good scientists, good programmers, things will not change. It's the way we think, the way we raise our children to think. So I think this is the whole thing behind it. There's a lot of debate around this topic, Paula, and I have been involved several times in such debates about women in computer science and engineering. And so, yes, there has to be, in my opinion, a change in the way our society thinks and perceives women in general. So I see other questions here.
Generally, Shula, this is exactly, and I'm sorry if I sounded, if I passed it on in some other way, in some way that I did not intend to. Yes, it's not a gender problem; it's a society problem. How the modern workspace perceives women as fellow equal professionals, and this is an absolutely huge problem in one of the most male-dominated fields, which is computer science, of course. Yeah, this is the general idea that blockchain, again, even maybe accidentally, managed to help alleviate some of these problems because it hid the identity of the programmer. So maybe if by removing the identity of a programmer, if we enforce equality by removing the identity of the programmer, maybe society has a problem about perceiving women's identities as less than equal, maybe. So again, an indicator of a much larger problem in today's society, of course.
I think we need a totally different session on this topic.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, great. Just some logistics first. Our slides, I will check with the rest of the presenters if it is okay with them to share their slides, and then we will share them on our DLT4ALL website along with the video of this.
I have shared my presentation to Dimitris, so you could directly take it from him. Okay, so if anyone is interested, I don't have a link to send it, but it's in a PDF form, so anyone can take it, and it's small size.
Thank you. Okay, let me see. I see here some other well, I see here something. Access to computer, mobile phone, and other tools remain a big challenge to create awareness of blockchain education in many third world countries. This must be addressed positively. Yes, coming from these areas, I assume, Eric, you know what is happening better there than us. And yeah, indeed, we need awareness around blockchain education. I would like to mention here that at least for some of our courses, they are free to everybody. All you need is internet access. You know, a basic either mobile or a laptop where you can have internet access. We have a lot of material on blockchain within DLT4ALL. I assume within also the project that Socrates. Socrates, if you can stay also online with me, maybe you can answer some questions. I understand that in that project, you have also developed material. So there is a lot of material around that we can share with you, provide access to you. The University of Nicosia also offers 2 free MOOCs available to everybody. One is an introductory to blockchain. The other one is starting this week, is on DeFi. So feel free to join us.
I will share in the chat now 2 useful links.
Mm-hmm.
That regards, of course, blockchain in agriculture. So if anyone wants more information, they can dive into those
okay,
2.
I think, Socrates, this question is for you here. It's a comment. I don't know if you want. The cost of operating blockchain is costly, thus depriving the farmers in poor countries to benefit.
The cost of blockchain, it's not only the cost of blockchain, it's the cost of generally of smart farming. And since those technologies, of course, they are in advanced, let's say, level in some countries, but it's not widely used because of the cost. So if by technology advancements in future, possibly it could be viable for poor countries too. For the moment, it's not easy to deploy it. For example, blockchain is under development.
You're right. Yes, I agree with you.
It's for example, in agriculture, it's mainly used, as far as I know, for of course, traceability of products. But you know, in Greece, for example, you cannot find easily traceability of all products. It has to be specific biological ones that have, you know, that are marked. So what I know, it's in future, it will be accessible for everybody, but not now. Now, blockchain is developed, for example, for paying agencies, for the farmer paying agencies, because it's the only way to cross-check the parcel, the farmer, and of course, the disaster that happened, and then he gets the money. This is, you know, it's not practically used. it's under development. So, of course, I cannot answer, nobody could answer that question, what will happen with poor countries.
Thank you,
I think that the EU will find a way. I don't know, it's not only the EU, it's global, but main initiative starts from EU. So now I will share to the chat some useful links.
All right. Dimitri, the next one is for you until Socrates shares the links. Where was
Sure.
it? Okay. In terms of identity security online, I find the AI generated avatars very interesting. How does one gain knowledge into this to protect their image online?
The AI generation of an avatar of a woman or a man or whatever else, it's a tool we use to help us in what we try to do to mask our identity. These are called generative adversarial network algorithms that learn from a data set of like, say, human images, and then they can be used to generate an amount of AI-generated, I guess, images of a person, say a female or a male. And there's also style gun algorithms for cats, dogs, horses, all sorts of living beings. We can train them. I trained them on my computer for like 3 days, and on the 4th day, I managed to generate 5 images of what I think are very passable human beings. So yeah, that's the one. Vasilis Protodarios just links the correct GitHub. So this is just a tool, I guess, to help us in what we try to do, the theatrical part of it, try to hide our identities when we develop for a blockchain project. Not noise, Mr. Stefan. Sorry for jumping the gun here, Sula. Just saw a follow-up question. We don't introduce a lot of noise by AI, Stefan. We use existing data sets of real human pictures to train the artificial intelligence so it can produce more passable human beings as avatars. And as I said, a lot of male programmers that I have confirmed are male use female images, and a lot of women in blockchain programming use male images just to, misdirect the whole space and force people to not discriminate based on gender. Very theatrical.
Thank you, Dimitri. I see here another question that I found it very interesting. Sustainable food consumption from Petros. Are there any practical ideas on how blockchain could ensure food consumption, mainly at the final consumer level, its sustainability, the consumption sustainability? Personally, right now, I can think of a few cases. For example, food that we need to keep it at some sort of constant temperatures. As we can use the blockchain to record along the supply chain, its value chain, the temperatures, and ensure that by the time they reach the final consumer, it doesn't spoil. For example, I mean, just something that I can think on top of my head right now. So Grady, you have more experience on this, in regards to food. Maybe you have other applications in mind.
I don't have experience in food consumption, but in food production. I think that consumption is, at the hand of anyone. Let's say it's, as I said, it depends on the right ecosystem and stakeholders that let's say promote such kind of solutions. So I cannot say to Dimitris not to eat more than he can. So let's say it's an initiative that everybody should participate. Blockchain could help by indicating where there is food, where there are shortages of food, and where there are plenty of food, let's say extra food, so it can direct unused consumption of food to places that it's needed. It's the only practical thing that I can think of, apart from, every person's, willingness to address that problem.
The other types of applications that I know exist around is for the consumer himself or herself to be able, when they go to the store, to check the product through some sort of application that they have on their mobile and see along all its traceability, from what fertilizers were used to the point it reaches the final consumer and the whole history along the way. And this is usually done, the consumer uses these applications at the grocery store itself. So they started also working on these things. These are the ones that come on top of my head right now.
Yes, but this will not, erase food consumption. The whole story of the product. So you help the strategy, the green farm to fork strategy, but this cannot deviate anyone to, to throw away food, let's say. Many restaurants throw away their food.
Prevent it from spoiling, yes.
From spoiling, yes.
Yeah, from spoiling.
So maybe blockchain could, let's say, inform where it is needed and it can address it there. Traceability is totally different. It's to know how it started, how it was produced, and all things that are relevant for production, but not for consumption.
Sure. Stefan here has a very interesting idea. Less consumption by deflationary coin. I haven't seen anything around yet like this, Stefan. This is a very interesting idea.
Stefan probably mentions this because deflationary coin systems are very in fashion right now in blockchain development spaces. Think of coins that have total supplies that constantly go down instead of going up. So reverse inflation, deflation. Well, I would like to address not so much on this, but I would like to comment on the comments up above where they keep mentioning the cost of running a blockchain. I think this will play into what Socrates has said earlier also about the cost of running these systems. The cost of running these systems is not really too much, and for whoever is saying that it is a barrier of entry for these systems to be utilized. Even if we take the worst case scenario of Ethereum's gas costs right now, where every transaction, not every transaction, every smart contract interaction costs $30. And if we suppose a company that does 2 data entries of its whole system per day, that's $60 a day, that comes up to less than $2,500 a year. If you tell me that in the context of my company, if someone comes and tells me that they can host the entire infrastructure for a supply chain management system on $2,500 a year, that's a dream come true. So it is absolutely not, a barrier in costs. And this is not considering the multiple level 2 solutions that have been presented in Ethereum that bring the costs down to $2 from 30. So as the network evolves, the costs keep going down, and there are solutions being offered to, economize on gas costs and make transactions even cheaper, to the point that most financial systems on Arbitrum, for example, or on Loopring right now are running on less than $200 a year. So that's an absolute bargain for what they can do.
Thank you, Dimitri.
No problem.
And I think, well, it's actually, we were supposed to finish at 1. It's I will take this the last question that I see here because I think it's very interesting. Could you share any blockchain project, startup relevant to sovereign identity, humanitarian field as a means to tackle human trafficking? Thank you. Yes. There are several projects on this one. The one that comes on top of my head right now is the one implemented, I think it's consensus with Estonia, and I don't remember if the United Nations also were part of it. What was happening in Estonia, the parents would go abroad to work, and the children would stay with their grandparents and so on. So it was easy for anybody, it was very easy for child trafficking. So they created this sort of identities, blockchain-based identities with the government to minimize this problem. So there are projects around. For more info, I need to go back to them and find out more. And let's see. I think this brings us to the end of this topic. I see that there is a lot of interest, especially around gender issues, supply chains, humanitarian actions. So even though this the DLT4ALL project finishes soon, we will keep in touch with you with more seminars to come around decentralized and with the rest of the consortium for other projects, and we'll be happy to have you on board with us. Keep in mind our final conference, which is scheduled for October 27th. We will be sending out more information on that as well soon. So thank you all, everybody, and a big thank you to the speakers. And to the back office there, Valentino, thank you very much for all your help in running the whole show here. So bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for having us.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, Sula. Thank you, Valentinos.